has those planes carrying Americans and SIVs stuck on the tarmac at Mazar-e Sharif Airport. Listen to this.
As of now, the Taliban are not permitting the charter flights to depart. They claim that some of the passengers do not have the required documentation. The bottom line is this: those flights need to be able to depart. And we will work every day to make sure that they're able to do that.
So they won't let them leave. Clearly, the Secretary of State says they must be allowed to go. So are they hostages at this point of some sort? What is going to happen to these people on these planes? What happens next in this standoff?
Exactly.
Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen is standing by. He and a group of special ops veterans successfully extracted this American family. A lot of controversy back and forth over how they did that. And moments ago, in the same speech in Germany, the Secretary of State said certain rescue groups going rogue are problematic. Watch this.
Some of the groups claiming to have all of the documentations and arrangements locked down, unfortunately don't, often for good reason. But this creates further complications.
So, more reaction to that statement about the complications caused by these special ops veterans who are getting people out in a moment. But first, let's go to foreign correspondent Trey Yingst in Doha. Trey.
Martha, good afternoon. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke today in Germany on his way back from Doha, talking about this situation and blaming the Taliban for those flights being halted. We do know there are still a handful of Americans on the ground in the northern Afghan city of Mazar-e Sharif, and Blinken says the State Department is doing everything they can to get the planes off the ground. Though a leaked email details that charter flights are not being granted permission to land at American air bases and other third-party locations, permission that is given by the U.S. government. Some important context here, though. The State Department does have reason for acting this way. According to a senior U.S. official, there is no way to verify who is on these flights, and the Taliban is in control of security at the airport. This comes as the Biden administration comes under pressure for the role they are playing in evacuations by land. One family escaped to a neighboring country over the weekend, and Representative Mark Wayne Mullen did help organize that rescue, saying the State Department is exaggerating the role that they played. All of this, a lot of moving parts, Martha, but the thing to remember, those Americans on the ground still not only in Mazar-e Sharif, but across Afghanistan, still looking for a way out safely. Martha?
Trey, thank you very much. Trey Yingst in Doha, Qatar. Here now, Oklahoma Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen, who...
Oh God, that's been now 3 days on the tarmac. I mean, they got to be feeding them people. Then people's got to be using the restrooms, and they're sleeping in some of the most uncomfortablest positions in the world towards sleeping on the planes. The planes probably are not air conditioned with them not running, providing that they're on the planes. I don't know, they may have taken them out of the planes and put them somewhere else. But if it's not a terrorist situation, it's tickling it, it's teasing it, it's the next thing to it. I've never in my life seen such of a disgrace in my whole entire life that has been set up, I hate to say it, by Donald Trump. But you can't excuse one administration more so than you do the other, because the other administration should have known better to have done a evacuation like this, a massive evacuation, without doing it in proper sequences, in proper forms. That way you left no American behind. That's always been our policy, ever since that I can remember anything about the United States military that was fighting a foreign war. And like I said, this has turned into a charade. It's a debacle from the get-go. I mean, yes, I commend this administration for getting 120, I think it's 122,000 people out safely. I'm still at awe with that, because I've never heard of anybody doing such of a thing like that in that short or such of a notice. That's 2 thumbs up. But the other end, the flop end of it, pertaining to people still being over there, especially since these barbarians are doing what they're doing towards, I guess, using these people for leverages to be able to get something over on the American government. I don't know. But it just absolutely sickens me. It makes me sick to the core that we are paying people big bucks to be in these high-ranking positions that's supposed to think all this stuff through and supposed to know what's going to happen in advance towards doing playouts, accessory playouts of what if this scenario happens, what if this scenario happens, what if that scenario happens. And obviously somebody must have dropped the ball on this, because now we have basically like a standoff. So let's listen to what this cat here's got to say.
Working, as we said, with a group of military veterans on the ground in Afghanistan to try to rescue Americans, which they have done successfully, to the family that we just showed you. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. You know, it really struck me when I heard that comment by the Secretary of State. You know, and once again, all right, you know what? The White House is getting a question on this right now. Let's listen and we'll come right back to you, Congressman.
The Secretary of State said the Taliban are not permitting the charter flights to leave and putting it precisely on them. What's your understanding of the holdup? And if the Taliban is preventing them, what levers do you have right now?
Well, a couple pieces are true here. So one is we are continuing to press the Taliban, the Secretary of State is, to do more to abide by allowing American citizens, individuals with who are legal permanent residents, and individuals with proper documentation to depart the country. It is also true that we don't have a role in preventing flights from taking off. We are not on the ground, so that is not something the U.S. government is doing. But at the same time, some of these planes and some of the issues is where are they going to land. So a number of these planes, they may have a handful of American citizens, but they may have several hundred individuals where we don't have manifests for them. We don't know what the security protocols are for them. We don't know what their documentation is. And there is a fundamental question, and this is one of the hard choices you face in government. Are we going to allow a plane with hundreds of people where we don't know who they are, we don't know what security protocols have been put in place, to land on a U.S. military base? And there are reasonable questions, justified questions, I think, as to why we wouldn't do that. And so right now there are some charter planes that are taking off. We do have to make evaluations about the safety and security and protocols in place as planes are landing on military bases. And there are some challenges as it relates to documentation, where a number of people may not have documentation, some for good reason, because they're trying to depart Afghanistan. But that is something we're working through. These handful of American citizens, we are also in touch with. They are not the majority of these flights. Far from it. It is a small number of American citizens who we're talking about on these charter flights.
Please, Jim. So are you essentially saying that, is the administration essentially saying, I mean, picking up from what Secretary Blinken has said today about documentation, is the administration essentially saying that Taliban is the only one who has access and who's able to check passenger documentation against these flight manifests? And if so, what is stopping the U.S., for example, from sending personnel over there to do this job and to allow these passengers to leave on the flights? I understand they're not all Americans, but many of them are Afghan allies.
Well, none of that is what I said or what the Secretary of State said. So let me try again. So there are the flights. We obviously don't have personnel on the ground. That's correct. We don't. What our objective is, and we have a presence in Qatar, right? As you know, our Secretary of State has been on the ground in Qatar, is negotiating and having discussions as we speak with international partners, and also members of our State Department are in discussions with the Taliban, because we do want to work through and ensure that we can allow additional flights to land at military bases. But it is also true that we are not going to allow flights to land where we don't know what security protocols have been taken, whether people have been vetted, who are on these planes. And I don't think the vast majority of American citizens want us to do that either. So right now, we are working through this process, and we are also in touch with the American citizens who are on these flights or who are in the vicinity, which are a very small number, to work through getting them out of Afghanistan. We are committed to that. We absolutely want to do that. We've already evacuated a handful of people, and we're continuing to work through. Now, things that will make it much easier for certain are if Qatari Airlines, we're working with them to see if they can get flights up and operational, more efforts to get individuals evacuated over land. We're working through all of these components, and it's the reason why the Secretary of State is on the ground in the region discussing and negotiating as we speak. Okay, we're going to keep going, Vija. Go ahead, Vija. Go ahead, Vija. I think I answered your question. Go ahead, Vija.
Thanks, Jen. I wanted to follow up on the president's speech tomorrow.
Sure.
You mentioned schools and private sectors as two areas of focus. But you've also been
very interesting exchange. So here we are in a situation where we gave up Bagram Air Base. We now have no personnel on the ground. You heard that question. You know, shouldn't we have some personnel who could maybe extract those American citizens and put them on a plane and make sure that they get home, which is the promise that they were given when we left Afghanistan? This is a very fraught situation. You've got Americans mixed in with other individuals, a lot of them SIVs, some of them refugees, on these planes. The Taliban says, no, the plane's not leaving. And our people and the people we want to get out are on them. So joining me now back again, Oklahoma Congressman Markwayne Mullin, who's been working with a group of military veterans on the ground to try to get these people out on their own. And you hear the conflict and the response from Secretary Blinken on that. Your thoughts, Congressman, welcome, first of all, to what Jen Psaki just had to say there.
Well, first of all, Martha, you can't believe anything the State Department is saying, and I mean that wholeheartedly. They're not being honest with the American people. And let me just go through a couple of things that she said. First of all, she said they've already evacuated some people. They didn't do anything. They did not help or assist in any way other than meet them when we finally got them across the bridge. In fact, the ambassador of the country which we got him out personally told me he was told by D.C. not to assist us in any way. And when you start talking about the planes on the ground, the Taliban, they don't check documents. They don't even care about the documents. That is not them that's holding the flight up. How do I know this? Is because we have guys in Mazar-Sharif right now that's actually working with the Taliban, not in a good way, but trying to secure the places so we don't pancake any more planes, because we have two planes there that have been pancaked because they've been overran by the amount of people. Here's what I personally talked to the State Department about. I said, how about we do this? If you can allow one plane to take off, I will guarantee and give you a manifest sheet that has only AMSETs, which are American citizens. I'll give you a copy of all their passports, and SIVs, which are special immigration visas. These are people that the American government has already vetted, and we'll have only AMSETs and SIVs on a plane. Would you give us permission to leave? And they said there's no way to verify the manifest sheet. I said, I will send you a copy of everybody that we have on the plane before they take off, and we will have our guys fly out with them. And they absolutely refused to do it. Their response to me was, well, we don't control the airspace over Afghanistan anymore.
Well, they don't.
I said, well, then
how are you going to create this plane that's full of the individuals that you talk about, right? How are you going to get that plane to land at Kabul airport or to land at Mazar-e-Sharif at this point?
We have it on the ground.
So you believe that you? So let me ask you another question, because another source of ours said that that the people are not on the planes, that they're at safe houses in the area. What is your understanding?
Well, I'll tell you right now, Miriam and the three girls that we got yesterday on Labor Day, they were actually on the plane, and we actually took them off the plane and then ran a rat line up to where we got them out. And so there is some that have been on and off the plane, but I can tell you that when she says that the State Department has been in contact with them, that is, I believe they probably have been in contact with them, but they've been in contact with them because individuals like myself and like the group that we're working with have gave them the information to talk to them, because when we're asking them, can they go land, the State Department says, can you send us their information? I sent them Miriam's and her three kids. I sent them their information 3 different times because they kept losing it.
I got to ask you a question. No, I understand that. I understand the documentation is a nightmare. And it sounds like, I don't know whether you can freely get people off these planes anymore, because it sounds like the Taliban is saying, you can? You believe you can get them off the planes?
Absolutely. We can get them off the plane and on the plane, and we can load a plane up right now with AMSETs and SIVs only and give them a clear documentation.
And the Taliban will just stand back and let you do that?
The Taliban, the only concern that the Taliban has had, which, listen, I haven't talked to the Taliban personally, we're talking to groups that are down there working with them, is that they were concerned because when they gave people the right to land, they started coming in without permission. They got upset and they didn't want anybody else to land. Our understanding